What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia brings you the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including a WWE superstar being unhappy, the revival being offered special contracts, double standards for WWE female wrestlers, WWE Hall of Fame news, more evidence of Dynamite's ratings edge over NXT, Batista's strong words for the XFL, and an update on Edge in the WWE. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. But let's waste no further time and get straight into the first story as we look at the Raw ratings, which are slightly down. Now, Raw did score an impressive feat for the 6th January edition of Raw, with PW Insider reporting Raw brought in 2,385,000 overnight viewers for this week's show, down from last week's 2,439,000 overnight viewers. The silver lining in each hour of Raw represented the top 3 hours of viewership for all cable last night in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. As you can see in the table, Raw lost a significant amount of viewers in the 3rd hour. Now, even though Raw's overall average audience was down 54,000 viewers, a 2.2% drop, despite the drop, Raw's victory in the 18 to 49 demographic is big, and it's what the USA Network likes to see, especially in light of how much they're paying the WWE to air Raw. However, despite the ratings drop, WWE seems to think that they've dominated the ratings in 2019. Well, in a way they actually have, as they point out that Raw finished as the #1 cable entertainment program on Mondays and the #1 most social primetime series in all of television, but this didn't seem to point out that most of Raw was horrible in 2019. The ratings are at the lowest they've ever been, and they've just found a number of loopholes to show that all is well. At this point, it seems that the WWE is just totally deluded. In this day and age, it's hard to hide what is common sense. But whilst we're on the subject of ratings, there's at least some good news for WWE Backstage as its ratings increased this week. Now, the ratings are still going up and down like a yo-yo, with this week's ratings going up after last week's decline. PW Insider reports the 8th January episode of WWE Backstage on FS1 brought in 124,000 overnight viewers, down from last week's 97,000 viewers. So far, Backstage's ratings seem to have no pattern for what brings in viewers, other than a lead-in from a major league sporting event such as a baseball playoff. One of the questions to ask is whether FS1 tweaks the show in an attempt to improve the audience. If they do, what do you think would make the show worthy of the fans' attention? More surprises? Bigger news drops? A better time slot? Next up, the Revival have been offered special contracts. Now, it's pretty clear that the Revival are on their way out from the WWE after WWE has taken numerous attempts to embarrass them on live television. However, WWE feel confident that they will re-sign with the company. On the Oh You Didn't Know podcast, it's been revealed that the contracts that WWE have offered the Revival are worth around a combined $1 million a year. They've also offered them a lighter schedule. At this point in time, there's been no news of the Revival re-signing with the WWE, but there's also been no news that they've outright rejected them. Both Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson are smart, and they'll wait until near the end of their contract so that they could start a bidding war. Next up, Becky Lynch talks double standards for female wrestlers. Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch recently spoke about the pressures of main eventing wrestling shows. If there's a guy and he made an error, it's kinda passed over. Oftentimes, I feel like I have the weight of a gender on my shoulders. A million guys have had terrible main event matches, but if I have a subpar main event match, the question comes up, should women be main eventing? And that's a load of crap. It's not good, it's not right, but it's what we have to do. I don't want this to be a question of the future. Those barriers should be gone by now. Now we are happy that women's wrestling has grown by leaps and bounds in the WWE, particularly after the awful days of the Divas era. Nonetheless, Lynch's comments don't ring true or hold up to any scrutiny. First, her statement that a million guys have had terrible main event matches is absurd. The caliber of wrestlers working in the WWE is arguably the best in the promotion's history, and it's difficult to think of matches featuring bad wrestling. Bad booking? Well, that's another story, but it's hardly the wrestler's fault. Case in point, the Fiend vs Seth Rollins bout at 2009's Hell in a Cell show. In Lynch's case, her and Charlotte's match at TLC vs the Kabuki Warriors was seen by many fans as a botch fest. Second, the WWE's women's division is not the focus of the promotion, and as such, they do have an extra burden in the main event, which has far less to do with their gender than the fact that they are experiencing the same trials as any up-and-coming star faces. Lynch's comments would hold more weight if WWE wasn't pushing the so-called women's revolution down fans' throats. There are a sizable number of fans who enjoy women's wrestling, but just like heavy-handed pushes like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins during his recent babyface run as Universal Champion, most fans don't like to be told who to cheer, nor do they like to be browbeaten into thinking they should feel bad if they don't like women's wrestling. The WWE, and Becky Lynch in particular, need to lay off the social engineering in an entertainment medium that it still plays off sexist and racist tropes, and instead letting the fans decide what they like and dislike. Next up, is an NXT star looking to leave? Add NXT's Io Shirai to the ever-growing number of disgruntled WWE superstars, at least if Diamond Dave Meltzer's comments on Wrestling Observer Radio are correct. According to Meltzer, Shirai is not necessarily happy working for the Black and Gold brand. With Ringside News reporting, there are a couple of reasons why she's not so happy. She was making more in Stardom than she is in NXT. Her fiancé, New Japan Pro Wrestling wrestler Evil, is also in Japan. The separation from Evil is also something she could do without. If NXT continues to perform well for the USA Network, there could be more disgruntled NXT stars given the rumored big difference in pay between them and the stars of Raw and SmackDown. It's hypocritical of the WWE to push NXT superstars as equal to Raw and SmackDown superstars, yet pay them a comparative pittance. Do you think NXT superstars should be happy with their salaries, or is it time for a raise? Next up, WWE Hall of Fame news. The 2020 Hall of Fame ceremony will be here before you know it, and there's some big rumors going around concerning new additions, including a top star from the 80s and 90s, as well as additional members of the NWO, a faction already scheduled to enter this year's class. During a recent teleconference for NXT UK TakeOver, Triple H was asked whether the British Bulldog deserves to go in the WWE Hall of Fame. Trips replied, 100% deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. There are also rumors that there may be additional inductions for the New World Order, with Eric Bischoff's name being brought up. Next up, Memphis legends skeptical of AEW honoring Memphis legends. If you managed to catch Dynamite last night, it featured a tribute to some of the all-time wrestling greats who worked in the legendary Memphis promotion. One such wrestler who didn't show up was Jerry the King Lawler, undoubtedly Memphis, Tennessee's best-known wrestler. Lawler also seemed critical of AEW's tribute, commenting, "They're looking to sell some tickets and pop the crowd. I think a tribute to Memphis wrestling is actually the last thing on their minds. They're looking to sell some tickets and pop the crowd." Lawler knows that the wrestling business is all about selling tickets. His comments knocking AEW honoring some of the many greats who worked in Memphis are disingenuous and more or less make him sound like another WWE corporate shill. After all, what's the Hall of Fame all about? Is it really there to honor those wrestling greats? No, they sell tickets and they make money off it. Next up, more evidence of Dynamite's ratings edge over NXT. While the Wednesday Night War has featured some interesting battles between Dynamite and NXT in the ratings, Hollywood industry magazine Variety recently posted some interesting numbers about both shows' ratings when it comes to delayed viewing. AEW has the advantage in delayed viewing as well. In Live Plus 7 through December 18th, Dynamite is averaging 1.2 million viewers per week, with 654,000 of those in 18 to 49. That represents an appropriate viewership lift of 32% per week. NXT meanwhile is averaging 972,000 viewers in Live Plus 7, with 428,000 in 18 to 49, a viewership lift of approximately 20%. While both shows have come under fire for their audience shrinking, it's far too early to predict victory or defeat for either show in general or in relation to other programming. These numbers for viewers who watch the shows after it airs are significant and show that both shows are doing numbers both TNT and the USA Network are likely to be very pleased with. Next up, Batista's strong words for the XFL. Dave Batista's WWE days are behind him and he's now focusing on his Hollywood career. Nonetheless, the animal still likes to talk about wrestling, and in this case, the XFL. Batista recently tweeted, "Well, I can say this about the XFL 2020, knowing that Vince McMahon is a huge dog lover, there's not a chance in hell he'd be okay with dog murderers and piece of shit players abandoning their dogs in the middle of the street. I'm not sure how anyone else is okay with it either." And lastly, an update on Edge in the WWE. Now, we've all heard the rumors that Edge could be a participant in the 2020 Royal Rumble, and if you're still not convinced that Edge will be turning up at the Rumble, consider this recent report from PW Insider's Mike Johnson. We've been told that Edge signed a new deal. We've been told that it has a very nice upside to it financially, and you have to think it's not just a Legends deal where they just have him show up and have him do promos. So I think there's more smoke to the fire with Edge than there is with Paige as we record this. But what do you guys think of this? What are your thoughts on Edge possibly returning? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.